Okay, now we're going to use jQuery to add a class. And so this Animate CSS classes, like the animated and also the type of animation that's going to happen, we're not going to add that in the HTML. We're actually going to add that in JavaScript. And that way we can control when that class gets animated and when it actually does animate as well. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility. In the last video, we talked about using these jQuery selectors to select the object on the stage and then used the hide to hide that section. But instead of hide, what we're going to do is we're going to run a function called add class. And that add class function takes a couple different parameters. And so we're going to pass in the classes that we're going to add to that object. So we're talking to section 1 and we're saying, hey, add the classes of animated and bounce. That way we control when that class, that add class happens, and we do that in the JavaScript rather than just having it just happen automatically. In this demo, what we're going to do is we're going to add the code to our page loaded events, and then we're going to use an add class function to get that functionality. So let's go ahead and go into the code. And the only thing I've modified from here is we're still using the same code from the last section, or you can download it, open up the 02 section here as well. But you can see section 1, I got rid of the animated class and I got rid of the actual animation as well. So you can see I did that for all sections, section 2, section 3, and section 4. So let's go ahead and open up the JavaScript file. I'm going to open up interaction.js and I'm going to come into the page loaded function here. As soon as the page loads, what I want to do is I want to add the class to section 1, section 2, and section 3 and 4. So I'm going to go ahead and use the jQuery selector to talk to the object that I want to talk to. So I have to have the $, open close parentheses, open close quotes, and then I'm going to talk to, first of all, section 1. Because this is a class, I need to have that dot, so I'm going to go ahead and say section 1. But instead of dot hide like we did in the last video, we're going to say dot add class. Now it has to have a capital C and a lowercase a for this to work. Here I'm going to pass in the two classes that are going to be added to this section. So first of all, I'm going to say animated. Every object that animates in Animate CSS has to have that class. And so from there, I'm going to go ahead and say bounce here. Then I'm going to end that with a semicolon. I'm going to go ahead and hit save, and let's switch back into the browser. I have my window open here, so I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh here. And you'll notice the only thing that animates is that first one. I've used the jQuery selector to select that first object, and I added the class to that first object. So let's go ahead and do the same thing with all of the different columns here. So I'm going to go back into my code, and I'm going to copy this. If I don't have to retype everything, well, great. I'm going to go ahead and copy that 3 times, and I'm going to switch to section 2, come down here, switch to section 3, come down here and add that to section 4. Now I'm going to switch this to shake. Let's go ahead and switch this to ta-da. And then the last one is going to be switched to jello. All right, so let's go back into the browser, hit refresh. You'll notice we have some problems. 2 and 4 are not actually, oh, it took a little while. I think it's because we have still in our CSS kind of a delay. Let me go into, yep, right here, the animation settings. I'm going to get rid of those animation settings. That was from a previous video. So I'm going to hit save, come back into the browser, hit refresh, and you'll notice all the animations are happening at once. If you want those settings, the duration, the delay, and everything, then great. But if you don't want those settings, then you can go ahead and get rid of those in the CSS file. But that's, if we go back into the interaction.js, that's how you go in and you use the jQuery add class function to be able to add a class whenever you want. Now, we're doing this as soon as the page loads, but we can do this when somebody clicks a button, when somebody swipes, when somebody long presses. There's a lot of different things that you can choose from. But for now, that's how you at least add a class in jQuery.